This week on commandN, power your laptop with your Hamster, how to get your Flutter on, and how to keep tabs on Wikipedia. Welcome to episode 175 of commandN. I'm Amber. As you can probably tell, we're not in Toronto this week, and we won't be in Toronto for the rest of the month. We're shooting from southern Florida, and we're very happy to be here. Now let's talk about the tech headlines of the week. Our headlines this week are sponsored by our friends over at GoDaddy.com. If you sign up for any of their hosting packages, you get an extra 10% off if you enter the promo code commandN. That's a number 1 and the number 0. And when you do this, you're supporting commandN, so thank you. And don't forget about the Atlantic Internet Marketing Conference in Halifax from the 22nd to the 24th. Find out more at aimconference.com. Our first headline this week is from Associated Press. AP has decided that if websites want to use their content, they need to get permission and they also need to share revenue. That means that many blogs like the Drudge Report and thousands others could be getting a call from AP's lawyers. All I have to say is good luck with that, AP. Now we're going to head on over to England for our second headline of the week. In the town of Buckinghamshire, they were experiencing a slew of break-ins. Now what happened when the Google Street View car rolled into town is that many of the residents got together and formed a human chain around the car because they believed that it was an invasion of their privacy while the car left town. And now if you look up Buckinghamshire on Google Street View, you might be disappointed. Google also made it into our third story of the week. If you do image searches on Google, which I do all the time when I'm trying to find images for a presentation, well now you'll be able to sort all those images based on color. They've added this color filter, which is a really neat addition if you're trying to find images, let's say blue images or red images, something to match the type of work that you're doing. Now this isn't available right now for everyone, but the plan is to roll it out for the masses in the near future.
Zach and I were sophomores at the time at Stanford when we came up with the idea. Everyone was starting to Twitter and we were thinking, you know, what's the next big thing? Can we take this to another level? And that's when we dropped out and started Flutter.
Unless you had your head buried in the sand, I've been spending way too much time in the sun today, you probably saw the video from the good folks over at Flutter. This is a service that's available for people who think that with Twitter, you know, 140 characters is just a little too much.
We limit our users' posts, or flaps is what we like to call them, because it's like hummingbird's wings flapping, which is like really fast, which is like, you know, faster than a regular bird tweets. We limit it to 26 characters, so one full English alphabet is the maximum flap.
If you have pet hamsters and you're tired of them lazing around, it might be time to put them to work. As you can see from this video from MIT, some folks in a lab have decided to take some hamsters and based on just very minor movements, they've set it up so that the hamsters can generate electricity. Now this could mean that down the road, you or me could sit on a couch, move a little bit, and power up our laptops. Now we have a viewer video from Roz, who caught up with the mastermind behind 6 to Start at South by Southwest.
We invent and build new kinds of entertainment.
So what does 6 to Start do that's unique for the web?
A lot of experiments.
Nice.
because
like
you know, if you look back at the history of media, it took a very long time for us to figure out what to do with television. It took us a very long time to figure out what to do with film.
Right.
You know, I think technology is helping us advance that change. So one of the first projects that we did was this collaboration with Penguin called We Tell Stories.
Right.
And what we did with them was we came to them and said, look, okay, you guys are great storytellers, you're great writers, and you're writing some great books right now. And that's one of the big things that 6 to Start is about great content in the form of great storytelling, but also gameplay, game design, and playful design.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's the opportunity to experiment here.
Yes.
So you might enjoy it, you might not like it, but we're not coming from the internet to destroy your business model, right? We're not, hi, we're from the internet and we're here to help, yeah?
That is fantastic. And so what was Penguin's reaction? I mean, obviously they took you guys on, you did the project, but what was their reaction initially?
Penguin absolutely loved it, and we worked with Penguin to figure out the 6 authors that we'd approach. Right. And we identified 6 stories from their back catalogue. Right. And then we, you know, Adrian and his team of game designers already had an idea of the way that they wanted to tell stories.
Okay.
online. So the most popular one has been our Google Maps story.
Oh, I haven't seen this. So tell me about it. What's the Google Maps story?
So it's a retelling of the thriller The 39 Steps by John Buchan.
Okay.
And it's been rewritten by a contemporary Penguin author called Charles Cumming.
Right.
And he writes thrillers. And what we did was we took the thriller of The 39 Steps,
right,
and we retold it using the Google Maps interface. So instead of seeing that little marker that tells you where your nearest Pizza Hut is, right? And the little dialogue box that shows you the address. Inside that, it's a first-person narrative of the guy telling you what's happening in the story to him right there.
Oh,
and you can follow him, and then there's a little animated line that moves around just like in Indiana Jones.
Oh, wow.
And it's incredibly mesmerizing.
Well, that's really cool because, I mean, here we are at the Interactive Exchange, and, a lot of people are saying, well, what's interactive about video on the web? There's nothing interactive about it.
What I'd say is that, the stuff that we created for Penguin, yes, it was interactive. Obviously, it's not a full-blown gaming experience. Reading or experience of story is not necessarily, doesn't always have to be full-blown interactivity.
Right.
Sometimes people want a more passive experience.
Yeah.
But what we can do is we can make it more interesting. We can make it more playful.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations on the award. It was an absolute pleasure to meet you. And best of luck with 6 to Start.
Great, thank you.
All right. See you later, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much to commandN viewer Roz for sending us that segment. And remember, we're always looking for your content. All you have to do is send an email to info@commandN.tv. And if you're looking for some tips to create that content, let's check out the second part of Jeff's segment about shooting one-person interviews.
So there's some basic considerations you want to make relative to your background. First of all, it's great to have a backdrop that is relevant to the subject you're talking about. So if you're talking about financial things, being in front of a bank, or if you're talking about books, being in front of a library or bookstore, that's great. You can't always do it, but when you can do it, it does add something. And then you want to make sure to examine the background to see if there's anything coming out of the interviewee's head or like this wall here is a bit distracting. Those types of things you want to avoid, especially around the interviewee's head, and that's made even worse when you've got a deep depth of field, and that makes it look like everything in frame is relatively in focus and kind of flattens out the frame a bit. So ideally, you want to have a very shallow depth of field, and what this does is bring the focus on the interview subject, and it'll blur out the background. So you can see like the leaves on the tree here and other objects in the background are blurrier than I am. It makes it that they still add visual interest to the background without distracting from me. So I stay as the main focus as the interviewee. Another important consideration relative to backgrounds is don't shoot in front of a window. You get backlighting and you can't see your subject. And in terms of lighting, we have pretty good lighting here. It's very diffuse. There's external light bouncing around. There's no harsh direct light, but you need to look at your lighting when you're filming an interview. You don't want any harsh shadows to be falling, especially on the subject's face. And you can help deal with these issues by just using a sheet of bounce. Any white object can bounce some light back up and help fill in those shadows, or just add some more diffuse lighting to the scene. In terms of audio, you got to remember that audio is really what you're after in an interview. It's important to hear what the interviewee is saying, and the only way to make sure you know you're hearing it as you should be is to put in your headphones while you're doing the interview, or at least put in one and hear what the levels are going to sound like on the tape, hear what the background noise will sound like. You also can pick up things such as if you're in the wind and you don't have a windsock or anything on your mic, you'll hear the wind noises by using your earphones, and you wouldn't hear that if you were just conducting your interview otherwise. Then you want to consider, how do I conduct the best interview I can conduct? So there's a few tips for this too. First of all, make sure your interviewee is comfortable and relaxed as best you can. A lot of people get nervous in front of a camera, so just see what you can do to make them comfortable in the situation. When you're asking questions, ask open-ended questions. You don't want questions that the subject can answer yes or no to. You want them to elaborate on it. So ask open-ended questions, and keep in mind how you think you want the interview to end, and make sure that you get that footage, because it's important to end strongly. So when you're scripting out your questions, know what you're going to ask last and what you expect to sort of be your wrap-up piece. And that may change based on the answers the person gives you. When you look at it later, it's like, oh, you know what, this will be a better piece to end with. But go into the shoot knowing how you think you're going to end it, and make sure that you do have an ending in the can before you stop doing the interview. So those tips should help you do a single-person interview, get some good results, help with the lighting, the sound, the questions, and just making the interviewer comfortable and getting the most out of them you can, which is really the goal of an interview. I'm Jeff MacArthur. That's all for this week. Enjoy.
Now it's time for our web pick of the week. If you're wondering how many times someone has looked something up on Wikipedia, well, now you can get all of the statistics. All you have to do is head on over to WikiRank, which will give you analytics for the past few months. So you can look up your own entry if you have one, or look up a variety of other subjects. That's it for this episode. Remember, we'll see you in the comments at commandN.tv. We're always there, and we'd love to get your feedback. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.